What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of Generations Unveiled Family Chronicles. And today I will be interviewing my father. Dad, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, kiddo. I'm doing good. I can't complain.
And fine. Yeah, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to come and do this interview. We were supposed to do it tomorrow, but I keep getting the time zones mixed up and stuff.
It's all good. No sweat. I'm
Yeah,
just glad I got time to do it. So, you know how
right.
life
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get everybody. So I want to, like last week I did mom and got her story, and I want, to get your story. So tell them like where are you originally from?
From Washington, D.C., Northeast, from a neighborhood called Paradise Manor. Uh, I can't say too much. Ah, you know, you used to spend summers there when, it's wasn't a very nice place to grow up at times. I mean, the drug game changed. At one time, we was the largest open air drug market on the East Coast when I was in high school. And that set the precedent for who you can become in life. It makes you tough. It opens your eyes to a lot of things. Nation of Islam had to come down from New York and pretty much take over the neighborhood to run the drug dealers out of it back then. I mean, it was guys from New York, Miami, Jamaica. I mean, man, it was shootout every single night. I mean, I know one day I had to wait for these guys to stop shooting so I could run to school, so I could run out the door to get on the bus to go to school. I was like, damn, I wish they hurry up and stop shooting so I can. Well, we was back outside the very same day after school. I mean, once if you live that life and you grow up in it, you don't even think nothing of it during the time. It's only when you reflect and you look back do you understand the nature of the consequence of the life that you grew up in, and it helps to make you a stronger person. It builds character, especially if you didn't get involved with that. So, but that's where I'm from in a nutshell. Washington D.C. Oh,
Right.
Redskins.
Yes, yes, yeah. You're not looking too good this year.
No.
So how did your parents, aka my grandparents, how did they meet?
Well, grandmother, Ma, as we call her, as you guys call her, she lived in DC on 46th Place. And my dad, he lived in the neighborhood called Lincoln Heights, which was another rough side of town too. And they met in junior high school. And uh, my dad is probably about 2 years older uh, than mom. So, they were young, they were kids, and Uh, that's how they met. Just from a neighborhood thing. Each neighborhood showing up at the junior high school. So I think they actually met at the rec center, Kelly Miller Rec Center. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So like growing up, you mentioned a little bit about about Paradise back in the 70s and 80s, but what was it like? Besides like a lot of the besides like the drugs and the shootouts and stuff, what was some other stuff like growing up for you?
Well, the drugs and stuff came in my teenage years, but before that, it was actually a lot of fun. We had a sense of community. We lived next to the same people for a very long time, so they became your family too. And we went to school with the same kids, the same neighborhood school kids for a long time. So you grow up in a community and everybody knows everybody. Like we had one elementary school and the whole neighborhood went there. So uh it was great. It was great having these friends, and it was great that everybody knew each other. And I mean, we fought all the time like kids gonna do when you're young, but we had a sense of community. We had a sense of pride. We had football teams back then. We used to have neighborhood cookouts and parties, and especially in the 70s and toward the mid 80s. But when the drugs kicked in, that's when everything just really went downhill for the neighborhood when the drugs came in. But during the 70s towards the early 80s, man, I best neighborhood in the world. Best neighborhood.
You
Toughest
know, I
neighborhood.
mentioned I mentioned to my mom because like I have a fascination with the 70s. I asked my mom in the last interview, what was the 70s like? Oh, I don't remember. I was young, but you seem to remember the 70s you pretty well. Like, what was the
Yeah.
70s like?
The 70s was so much fun. Everybody had their bush picked out. We was in the house. We would dance and we would have parties and the community. Like I said, when you grow up in a big community like we did, when you had a birthday party, the 7 other families in the building that you live in, not to mention the kids across the court, they had a birthday party. So we always got together. We was always in there practicing the robot and dancing. And of course, if you have young parents, that is a difference maker. So my
Right.
mom was young. So you got young parents, they listen to the hip songs that of the day and we listening to them. And the 70s was fun, man. I rode my bicycle and my big wheel all day long. I ain't never come in the house. You had to beat me to get me in the house because we were outside in the woods. We were outside playing football and basketball and throwing rocks and jumping cars and playing in the dirt and doing anything we could in the 70s, man. That was really a good time for family. That was a good time for friendship, brotherhood. I mean, young guys that's my age now that, are still alive. We communicate on Facebook and talk about, just the playground adventures when we would swing and try and wrap ourselves in the swing and jump out as far as we can. Or back then the teachers could beat you at school too, and they would not hesitate to bust that yardstick across you too. And if you went home and told your mother, it's a good chance that she might get you too, because if the teacher had to hit you, it's something you had to do wrong. So
Right. I think we need to bring that back. I know this is off like the topic of the list of questions, but since you brought that up, I brought this up to my mom. Why do because you said in the 70s the teachers used to be able to whoop you, which I think we kind of need that back. But why do you think today the kids are, not disciplined and parents aren't, disciplining their children like it used to be back in the day? Why is that?
there's a couple reasons. All right. First, a lot of kids whose parents were a lot of kids your age, crack babies, meaning their parents were on drugs. So they didn't have any structure, because they saw their moms and dads off on drugs doing whatever they wanted. So when they grew up to have kids, they didn't care. You see, they already had a negative attitude. And so without disciplining your kids the correct way, it's a correct way to discipline your kids with a spanking and not go upside their head. But guess what? The drugs caused some of these parents to go upside their kids' heads in the wrong way. And what we do as a people sometimes is we transfer that negative energy, the way we were raised, back to our kids. It's kind of like we do it unconsciously. Now, that being said, this is what a lot of people don't understand about why black people were notoriously famous for spanking their kids. Back in the day, we would always say that white kids got to do whatever they wanted to do. Black kids didn't get away with that stuff. And we would be proud of it. Oh, I had to whip them. Yeah, 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 yeah. We celebrate. We celebrate hitting our kids and telling them no. The real reason behind that is that our kids back in the 40s and 30s and 20s, if you took your black kids out anywhere and they acted up, white people would discipline your kids. They would even take them from you. They might even hit you. that you might even get killed behind your kid doing something that a normal child would do, which is run around a store, which is throw something on the ground. So we disciplined our kids hard to say, you can't embarrass me in public. Don't embarrass me in public. It actually was a survival technique to save our lives. Now, what happens is it went a step further. During the 60s and the 70s, when people were having kids young, things changed. So people started it. You didn't have that survival mode anymore, but because it's a generational thing, you whip your kids. You want them to do what you say, you hit them. You see? So that's kind of one of those negative things that got passed down to us, but we don't know the reason. You see? Survival. Your kids act up out in public during the 20s and 30s, you might not make it back home, you or your kids. So we always had to be on our best behavior. We always had to be better because of the consequences. And it's no different than that than if you've seen when Obama was president, when that lady stuck her finger in his face. And he had to be better than that. Because if anybody comes stick their finger in your face and you're the president of the United States, I don't care if you're the president of Duncan Hines coffee cake company, you're going to immediately grab that finger and be like, lady, you better stop playing with me. But we have always had to be better. We've always had to go high when folks have gone low. But that's the idea of the spankings. You see, it got out of control. That's the thing. It got out of control. So, but that's my take on it. Everybody
That's
might see it
interesting.
that way.
I had no idea, because I do know it is like celebrated. Even I kind of talk about, I couldn't do that back in the day because I didn't get a whooping when I see, kids today acting up.
Acting up, right?
Yeah. So speaking of that, how were your parents like as parents? I just know mine's grandma, or we're not allowed to call her grandma, but how are they like as parents?
Well, my dad, I'll start with him because I took a lot of the way he parented. And when I went to stay with him a few times and I made mistakes, I was terrified. And he'd be like, Mike, what's wrong? I'd be like, Dad, I did this. I'm sorry, man. So he'd be like, okay, man, you messed up. That's it. You know, because Grandma Washington used to put the big hand on him. You know,
Mm. I didn't know she
I
used to put the big hand on them.
she put the big hand
Dang,
on everybody. But
I didn't know that.
yes, she put the big hand on all her kids because that's how kids were during that time when she was a
Yeah.
young mother. That's what had to happen. So he didn't want to do that, and he didn't do
Right.
that. He
Right.
didn't. He was not. My dad was so light when it came to that stuff, but he could get mad because if he asked you to do something and you didn't do it, then he would get upset. But he wouldn't punish you for making
Right.
a mistake, you see, for breaking a glass or something like that, or leaving the cap off the toothpaste. And you know how some black parents can be petty with stuff like that. He didn't
Yeah.
punish you for that. He just say, look, this, and this. But if he needed you to do something, like cut the grass or take out the trash, and he asked you and you still was bojangling, then he'll get in your face and be like, look, I told you to do something. You need to do it. And that's it. Now, your grandmother, I can't say the same for her. She had zero tolerance. Zero. She was not to be played with. You ain't joking with her. You ain't playing with her. You not. She was serious business. And if you got out of line, she would he'd break that belt out on you. She would. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this story. We had some neighbors, and they used to borrow everything. Good Lord! But my mother would give them stuff. They would borrow everything. And one day, the lady came over and asked for 2 eggs. And I had seen my mother give her 2 eggs. Now I was about 14 at the time. So I gave her 2 eggs. And Mom said, who was that at the door? I said, well, Peaches next door. What would she want? I say she wanted to borrow 2 eggs. I gave her 2 eggs. She said, you did what? You gave her 2 of my eggs? I said, yeah, you give her 2 eggs all the time. So she slapped me, and then she went next door, told the lady. Now, sorry, Mom, I got to keep it real. Told the lady, Michael gave you my last 2 eggs, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, I need them back. So the lady got the eggs, gave the eggs back. No, she went, got the eggs, knocked on the door, came in, gave Ma the eggs. But I had left the carton of eggs on the table after Mom slapped me, you see, because I went in the bedroom crying. And then she came in the room and said, I went and told her them was my last 2 eggs, and you left the eggs on the table, and she saw that I had more than those 2 eggs. And she slapped me again.
Damn.
Yeah, damn. So, yeah. So tough. Just tough. I mean, looking back, I don't agree with a lot of it. I understand some things you got to make peace with about your upbringing, because it ain't perfect. It ain't going to be perfect. You got to know what to process and what to let go. And sometimes your parents, they tried their best. Some stuff is wrong. Some stuff you can hold your parents accountable for. They are not, and this is from your father. We as parents are not fallible. We make mistakes too, and we can be held accountable for that. There's no reason to say just because I'm your dad or I'm your mom that I shouldn't be held accountable for something you felt that I did wrong. There can always be a discussion about it, an apology, and an understanding. And that's from somebody who got enough whoopings in his lifetime. I don't want no more. I don't want no more. I can honestly say that I never spanked y'all. You got maybe 1 or 2, but not real spankings. Not from me. Not the belts and all that stuff that I got as a child. So
I got that from Sheila. My mom gave me plenty of those. So
yeah,
why do you think the women? Because it seems my mom, and my mom's mom. Why do you think they were so hard with the whippings, but like the men, like my mom's dad and your dad and you, and even me, I don't even think I would whip my children like that. Why do
because
you think?
we got whipped. That's why. That's why we ain't hard on it. We got whipped. A lot of times girls ain't get whipped. And all your mom used to have to do is cry. And Mr. Nelson would be like, leave her alone. Leave her alone. So, and she know it. She know it. She know it. But when you grow up in a society like we did in a community, the Black community, and I only use words not as division between Black and white. I use it to say that this is my story. You see, not as division, because I got a lot of white friends, and I'm pretty sure some of them probably got some whoopings too. And I know a couple. I know a nice couple who was going to who said a few things, choice words to their kids about whipping their asses before too. So, but this is my story. So, from my Black community. So,
Right.
but women, if you've had to be in charge of the situation, then you're faced with that alternative. You see, especially if you have difficult kids, a lot of times patience for young parents run thin. And that, I will say, is probably half my fault, because I wasn't in Georgia with your mother, because I wouldn't have let her do no whipping. Her thing was screaming, talking loud. So, but I wouldn't have let her do that. Especially, I know Mr. Nelson used to be like, leave that boy alone, so. But women, if they've had to, be the head of the situation, and you have a difficult child, and I tell people all the time, kids inherit more from their parents than just hair color and eye color and height. You inherit difficulties. You inherit sometimes attitude. You inherit a lot of these things from your parents, but we as parents, we too busy fussing to even realize it's not until grandma come through and say, hey, you used to be the same way, so leave that kid alone. And you like, what are you talking about? I never was that way. Yeah, I was. And I had to call my mother about 6 months ago because of your sister and apologize for 1984, 85, 86, 87, 88, and 89. And when I got on the phone, I said, hey, Ma, I just want to apologize for 1984, 85. And she was just bust out laughing. I was like, yeah. So definitely something else.
So at one point you left DC to move to San Diego with your father. What was living in San Diego like compared to DC?
A world away. First of all, you got to be a special person at 15 to leave all your childhood friends and say, hey, I'm leaving to go to California, to live with my dad that I haven't really seen in a few years. And it was the best experience one of the best experiences that I ever had in terms of meeting people and seeing what life was outside of Paradise Manor and the ghetto, the real ghetto. It gave me a chance to see how people who actually had some money lived. And I ain't talking about my dad because he was in the military, and my stepmom worked, for a CMP phone company at the time. And, they were okay, but I went to school with some real rich kids. I mean, this one girl I used to hang with, her father used to drop her off in a red Porsche or Ferrari or something every day. And this other guy I was hanging with, he was a year younger than me. He was 14, almost 15. He used to come and pick me up in his mother's Cadillac for school. And I was like, huh? And then he would drive his father's car too, which was a stick shift. I said, you drive a stick shift at 14? He like, yeah, my parents don't care, And he was black, And well, he was mixed. His mom was white, but nicest people. And this fool had his own bedroom with a king size bed. I was like, damn. Right. And it was crazy. I met a lot of people. I actually was greenlit to get jumped while I was out there because we lived in this area called Terrasana, and I went to Sarah High School, which is in San Diego and North San Diego, and it's a real affluent area. But I had no idea what gangs were back then, I had no idea that they ran off of colors and everything. So I show up to school with my DC gear on, and I got a blue and white rugby, and then I got a red and white long sleeve rugby shirt. And I get to school, and this girl say, "Are you a Crip?" I say, "A Crip? What's a Crip? I don't know what no Crip is." She say, "Crip." I was like, "Nah, I don't know what that is." So, I'm just going about my day, and I'm in this little electronics class, and this guy named Benny called out to me. He said, "Yo, Mike, this dude look like Easy E and Ice Cube before they even came out. He had a curl and everything. Matter of fact, I talked to Benzo about 6 months ago. He still got letters I wrote to him and shit when I got back, and he like." He like, come here, man, let me talk to you. So he started talking to me, and he was like, blah, 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 this and that. He was like, look, man, you can't wear blue to school. He started schooling me on the gang situation and how things worked in California. I was like, oh, okay, boom. So by the end of the school year, I'm good. I'm good. And I had a couple of dudes, telling me, they was like, yo, Ben's got you a pass, man. We was going to smash you. I was like, what? He was like, Ben's got you a pass. He was like, he told everybody you was from Washington, D.C., and, we let you slide, man, because we ain't know. You come to school with blue and white on. And I was like, damn, like, that's like, y'all gonna jump me over a shirt? Like, yeah, serious business, man. Serious business.
Yeah.
But at the end of the school year, I flew back home. Resume life as I had known it before.
Right.
So,
So what was your the sports and hobbies that you inspired to what were your dreams and stuff like that you really wanted to do growing up?
well, when I was young, I really didn't. Before I got to be when I was young, I really didn't think about it. As a kid in the 70s, all I cared about was playing outside and having fun. But one day I was outside and this guy named Rodney, he say, I was looking for all my friends. I was like, man, where y'all been all day? I was about 7, 8 years old. And he said, we play football now. I say, football? He said, yeah, we on the football team. He said, you should come to practice with me. I say, okay, I'll go. So I went and I stood around and the coach said, you want to play? And I was like, I don't know. I guess I'll play. And so he lined everybody up for, a sprint. And I ran past everybody. They couldn't catch me. I was gone. I beat the whole line, the whole team. I beat everybody. And he was like, can you catch? I was like, I guess so. So he started throwing me the ball and I was catching it. And next thing you know, I was going to football practice every day. And after that, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a football player. They put me on the team. The coach gave me the nickname Speedy. And from that day, I think I was about 8, I ascended to neighborhood stardom. I was you couldn't do no wrong in Paradise, boy. Here comes Speedy. All the guys, all the girls. I was the star of the football team besides the quarterback. But I was just the greatest, and I aspired to be a football player. And then when I was 10, I went to San Diego the first time to see my dad. He asked me what I wanted to be, and I said, "Man, I'm gonna be a star football player. I'm the best in the world." And he said, "Come with me." And we went to the mall in San Diego, went to a shoe store. And he said, "You know whose shoe store this is?" I say, "No." He said, "John Jefferson." I said, the wide receiver?" He said, "It's John Jefferson shoe store." He said, "In the off season, this what he do." He said, "Football players don't make a lot of money, man." He said, "They do, but they don't." And this was around 1980 at the time. 80, 81, something like that. 81, 82, I think. And I was like, but that's what I wanted to be. So, I mean, eventually, when I was young, that I started playing less organized football and started playing more at home because we didn't have a local team anymore, and we didn't have one in junior high school. So I ran track, and I still ran track. I was still fast. I wasn't the fastest, but I still ran track, and I was fast, and we had fun out there and did a lot of stuff. And even when I went to San Diego at 15, I ran track out there. And, but when I came back to DC school for my 11th and 12th grade year, I just found myself in a financial situation where I had to go to work versus play sports because, Mom, Connie, Grandma, she was like, "I ain't buying that shit. That shit costs too much money." So, right. So I went posted up. At Roy Rogers and started working, and and that went that side of it. That went that side of it. So, but
right. So you think if that wasn't an issue, you would have, pursued it, more serious. You'd have been able to pursue it at a more serious level, like maybe college and possibly the pros, if it wasn't for that.
I'm gonna tell you, and I would have, because we used to have, when we had phys ed in high school, they had this guy. You know, he since deceased. So I ain't gonna say his name, but he was on the high school track team at my high school, Eastern High School, and we was having phys ed, and he played football and stuff, and you know, during phys ed they have a track portion. We have a track portion and another portion, whatever they did, and
Yeah.
we was running out there that day, and they lined us up to run, and we had to run the 220,
Yeah.
and I never said anything about my nickname or I could run or anything to these guys
Right.
because I was just really getting up Eastern at the time, you know, and I knew some people up there, but not a whole lot. I wore his
Yeah.
ass. I wore his ass out. I came around that corner on that 220 and I wore his ass out. And he supposed to been one of the fast people too. And after that, all he tried to do was get me to come play football, come run track. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on. And I'd be like, oh, man, no, I don't want to. I gotta work. You know, I gotta work. And I
Yeah.
had because growing up during the 80s, during that time, when you're going to school with young guys and they driving fancy cars to school at 16, 15, 17, and they got a pocket full of money from selling drugs, you know, you want to be on point. You know, I at least want to have one nice thing from my Roy Rogers check. You see, so
Mm.
you want to stay on point because guess what? You like girls. I like girls, you know. Girls don't like me. You know why? Because your shoes busted, son. That's why. They don't like you because your clothes is busted, you know? Like you can't even take me to the movies or nothing. So I had to work and sports was out because like I said, your grandmother, she was like, I ain't buying that. That shit cost too much money. And she was
Right.
true to her word. True
True
to
to
her
her
word.
word. She kept her
True to
word.
her
She kept her
word.
word.
True to her word. Yeah.
So, but by this time you're in high school, you're a teenager, whatever. What's at this point? What's some of the craziest stuff you've seen and witnessed in DC at this point?
Man. Stabbings, shootings, broken bottles over your head, jumped. We used to have a carnival. Every year we had an Easter carnival over at RFK Stadium parking lot where the Redskins used to play. And every year, all of the local DC gangs, they called them gangs, but they weren't gangs. They were crews. And a crew
Yeah.
is just a group of friends from your neighborhood. Y'all grew up together. So we were paradise. They had a Simple City, a Benning Road, a Greenway, uh, 8th Street, 8th and H. They just all the local neighborhoods would show up to this carnival around the same time every Easter Sunday around the same time. Everybody would get off of one bus. The guys who weren't driving and didn't have fancy cars, they would all be in the parking lot over there. But the crews that didn't have any of that stuff, we'll all be on the same bus. And we all get off the bus, walk into the carnival together, and less than an hour later, pop, 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 fight, 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 stab, stomp, broken bottles, and you see 50 people running for the bus just haul ass just to try to get back on the public bus to get back on our side. And luckily, it wasn't too far a walk from that place to back to my neighborhood. Kind of like that movie, The Warriors, where you just trying to get back to your neighborhood. And and that's what it was. And I've seen everything. I've seen the people used to live next door to us. They used to be cooking crack all the damn time. If you even know how crack smell, you be like, oh Lord, they cooking crack again. I mean, crack all day long. Crack smell bad, man. You don't want no oh Lord, crack smell bad. And to watch some of my close friends, some of their mothers got on crack back then, and it's tough, you know. It's tough growing up in that environment, and you know it puts some hair on your chest. You know, some cats made it, some cats didn't make it, and the ones that didn't make it, they made it out of the neighborhood from that intense violence, but they didn't make it out of their 20s. You see, they didn't make it out of their 20s. So, but I've seen everything. I've been shot at. I was home from California for 2 days when a guy came around the corner with a Uzi and started shooting. I'm running for my life. I look back, I see bullets skipping off the ground. I ran up in the hallway, banging on the door. Mom, open the door, open the door. They shoot, they shoot. They couldn't get me out the house for about 3 days after that. I was like, I ain't coming back outside, man. They was like, man, come on, man. I mean, and you get desensitized to it, you know. Eventually I came back outside. So, I mean, what you gonna do? Hide in the house forever? Nah, you're not. You're not. So, but that's some of the craziest stuff I've seen. I've just seen it all, man. You just during that time, you just keep moving, you know, just keep
Right.
moving.
Right.
So,
So, how did you meet Sister Hallelujah?
oh, Sister
What
Holly.
was that story? She told a brief story, but I know she ain't telling the full. So I don't really remember. I just went here and this and that. Maybe your dad will probably remember. I'm like, okay. She don't remember
That's
the '70s either. So
that's funny because before I can tell you how I met your mother, I actually met Trinity's mom first because
Mm.
all of us was going to the same school,
So Trinity's mom and my mom and you were all at the same school.
all at the same school,
Wow.
all at the
I
same
didn't even
school.
know that.
Yeah.
Didn't even know that.
So, and me and Trinity's mom were actually in the same class. We were taking data entry, and your mom was taking uh, early development, childcare, and
Mm.
early childcare development. And she actually, this funny. She ain't gonna like this. Your mom was talking to this guy named Chris.
Chris, yeah, I brought that up to her. I said, wasn't there a Chris involved in this story? She's like, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. See, Chris could sing. Or he faked like he could sing. He could sing. So that's how him and your mother was vibing. Ask her about the talent show. That was hilarious. Yeah, the talent show. But so I knew she was talking to Chris, and me and Chris was cool in school, you know. And then Chris dropped out. Now by this time, Trinity's mom had already dropped out. So
Yeah.
but so I would see her every day. I'd be like, where Chris at? And she'd be like, I don't know. I don't know where Chris at. I was like, you got his number? Can you know, tell him I'm looking for him. And she was like, I don't know. It's somewhere at home. I don't know where his number at. I was like, okay. So that went on for about a week and a half. So next time I seen, you seen Chris? Where Chris at, man? We almost finished. Where he at? And she was like, I don't know. I say, did you get his number? She say, no. I say, look, give him my number. She say, no. She say, give me your number and I'm gonna call you and I'm gonna give you Chris' number. I said, oh, okay. So she kind of low key booked me on the slide. You see what I'm saying? She ain't gonna tell you
You know
that
what's
part.
what's funny? I asked her who approached who first. She was like, "Oh well, Michael did because knowing me, I ain't finna make the first move on nobody."
Mm-mm. She said, give me your number and I'll call you and give you Chris' number. So, and that's how we started talking. And
Okay.
from day one, she was talking that religious stuff, and I used to, you know, at 20, I was just wow. I curse like you curse now. So
Hey, I don't be cursing. I don't be cursing that much, do I?
she would say, Mike, watch your mouth. Do you always gotta say those words? And I'd be like, God. But and that's how me and your mother met. And we started talking after that. So
She went off on me with the interview. She said, "Yeah, I heard your little video, your little rap video, you cursing." I was like, "Oh, come
mhm.
on."
Your mom wasn't much for cursing, but she could drop a choice few if she wanted to. If she wanted
So
to.
yeah.
But it was a transition point in my life when I met her. Yeah, she was talking a whole bunch of good stuff about God and religion and all that good stuff. And I was really trying to turn my life around at that point, just from
Mhm.
not doing anything. And
Yeah.
so, but that's how, that's how we started talking and this and that. And, you know, I can't say everybody agreed, your grandpa didn't agree.
Yeah. So what was everybody's reaction when my mom was pregnant? Like what was your mom's reaction, and how did my grandparents, my mom and dad, my mom's parents, how did they feel about you and the whole pregnancy, and how did you react as well?
Well, I got to go back a little bit on the story because this is what happened. When I met your mom and we started talking and we started seeing each other, she told me, you know, uh, I'm leaving at the end of the summer. I was like, at the end of the summer? What? Where you going? She was like, when I met your mom, your grandfather and your grandmother and your sister and your aunt, they were in the process of moving to Georgia. And your grandfather had given your mother an ultimatum. He told her, find a place to live by the end of the summer, or you coming home. You coming down here. Well, your mother ran around with me all summer long, so she ain't think more about finding a place than a man on the moon. And true to your grandfather's word, at the end of the summer, he came up here. He told her pack her stuff, and she was off to Georgia. And oh, we were so sad. Sheila, no, don't leave, don't leave. And we were so sad. I kept saying, when she left, we would talk all the time and this, that, and the third. And, profess our undying love for each other at 20, we we stupid, we liked each other, but we just had a false understanding of reality. Your grandfather actually had the right idea in mind, not to leave his 20-year-old daughter up here in a house. He was trying to sell his house, and actually your mom stayed there in an empty house all summer long, all summer. And she would come pick me up from the projects and drive me all the way back down Charles County, where me, her, Donnell, Gigi, sometimes her other girlfriend, and Lavelle, and Junior, we would all hang out all night long and stay up all night long. And then on our way to work at Greater Southeast Hospital, she would drop me back off over Southeast, and then she would go to work. And then when she got off from work, she'd come pick me up, and we hang out all night all over again. And your grandfather was like, you got to the end of the summer to find a place. And she didn't. And, because she really probably couldn't afford it. And she asked me if I wanted to move with her. They want to get a place together. And I was like, I ain't got no job. I don't know. No partners. No. I don't want to do none of that. So what happened was your grandfather took her to Georgia. Me and her came up with a plan to get her back up here. And it actually backfired. One of her uncles, who was on his way from Mississippi, picked her up in Georgia and drove her all the way back up here. And your grandfather and them, look, your mother gonna kill me for telling these stories, but I'm dead. I'm dead. Your grandfather and your grandmother and them chased them all the way up the highway, all the way. And I came and I got your mom and I took her to Southeast with me in the neighborhood called Simple City. I was living in Simple City at that time with my grandma. And that was probably the toughest period because your mom was not used to living on her own without her family. And I wasn't used to having her depend on me. We had kind of jumped into this thing without even thinking it through, like, okay, now we up here together. What we gonna do? I don't know. Sleep in this room all day. I don't know, So it was that type of thing. And then she got pregnant and we had broken up. And she called me on the phone and she said, Mike, I ain't tell you, but I'm 5 months pregnant. And I was like, 5, not 4, not 3, not 2, 5. I was like, I don't know. What am I do? Are you sure? Are you sure? Nah, Shell, I don't want to hear it. 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 You no, no, no. You wasn't even here. We broke up. You wasn't even here. And I was scared. I was scared. I was like, I'm scared. I'm 20 years old. I'm scared. Like, I'm still living in my grandmother's bedroom and I'm scared. Then one of your cousins called from Mississippi. He talked to me and your grandfather called me. And he was like, my first thing was to do bodily harm to you. And I was like, nah, Mr. Nelson, no, Mr. Nelson. I say, man, Mr. Nelson, I don't know. She just called me. Almost 5 months, man. I don't know, man. I don't know. And, I was scared. And your mother went back to Georgia. Because she was up here. Then she went back to Georgia. And we talked. And I talked to my mother. I told my mother. And then I talked to Jock. And Jock was the one who put it in perspective for me. He said, you a man, Slim. That's your kid. And you need to do what you need to do. And after I talked to Jock, I was like, you know what? You right. And I think a couple weeks later, right around this time, it's probably around June now. And I found a job and, and I went to work and me and your mother started talking about, I think once I told everybody because, when you're young like that and you're having a kid and, me and your mother, our relationship was tumultuous because we were both so young. And, I took her from the stability of the life she knew and said, come on, live in this projects with me. Come on. And she didn't know anything about guns and drug stuff and all of that. She was used to living a stable life and this, that, and the third. But I was young and I didn't know no better. And she was young. I knew how to survive in my world, but she didn't. I just thought honestly that, excuse me, kid, that you just survive, like, oh, it's easy. Just catch the bus. Look, that's on the bus down there. Like, it's not that easy. It's not easy for people that didn't grow up in that situation. And, looking back, and your mother tell you, I called her about 6 months ago and I apologized to her. I don't know if she told you. And
she told me y'all talked and, she said she apologized to you as well.
I don't know about that, but I apologize to her.
She said it on the podcast.
Right. But and you know what she said? She said, are you dying, Mike? Are you dying? I say, no. She said, why you calling me? I say, I just want to apologize to you for that, for bringing you into that environment. I say, I shouldn't have. I say, I'm so happy that we had our son, I say, but I should not have dragged you into my lifestyle, thinking that would change you because, some people it breaks them. And I will say your mother, she tough. She tough. And she can Joan too. She can Joan. So she got tired of me talking trash about her and talking trash about Mr. Nelson. And she started firing back, boy. She would fire back. I'll tell you, yeah, she could go. She could go if you get it the wrong way. She'd be like, yeah, she'd be like, did Connie whip you this week or something like that? Where Kenny at? Did Kenny still sell chips? Yeah, she would get hers in, but it was at that point that I was like, I gotta do something. This is my son, And I knew your grandfather he never approved of me at that time because he was a DC police officer and he had actually police the area in Paradise where I grew up at. He knew what time it was over there. And for your mom to tell him, yeah, oh, that's what update Mike, and he's from Paradise. Your grandfather was like, oh, no, you ain't talking to nobody over there. You ain't talking to nobody over there. And I think that after the initial shock of I was having a kid, I think one of my goals was to, show your grandfather, hey, I'm not one of those guys. I'm not that guy over there. I'm not this guy out there selling drugs. I'm not that guy. I ain't the best guy, but I ain't that guy. And I'm gonna be there for my son. So I spent, at one time, when you was little, you thought I lived at the hotel. Because any piece of crap car that I had, I would drive down there with the oil light on and everything. I'd drive on down there with the oil light on, And it was tough. Your grandparents, they didn't approve of me in the beginning, but I was consistent and I always came down there, whether I had to stay at the hotel, whether I stayed, or if I sat in my car. I mean, before I didn't even have a car, I would catch the bus down there. And I got familiar with the MARTA train and everything. We catching it, and catching Highway 85 was my friend. But I got familiar with getting down there and getting back. And you might not remember, but a few times me and you caught the bus back from there to DC together. But that probably was one of my main goals, was to impress Mr. Nelson, because your mother, she held him on such a high pedestal, and I was like, and that was all the motivation I need. I was like, he ain't gonna be better than that's my son. That's my son. But shout out to Mr. Nelson. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because I'm gonna have him next week on here as well. Hopefully he know how to work this thing. I got to get someone to help him.
Because yes, Mr. Nelson was definitely well. I'll say this: your mom rubbing Mr. Nelson in my face was a lot of motivation for me to be more stand up. Whether me and your mother could come to a consensus about our personal relationship, which we never did.
Right.
But that's what happens when you're 20 years old and you have a kid. Especially when you're from different life backgrounds, and people say that don't matter, but it does. It really does.
Right.
So shout out to Sheila.
Man. Where did my name come from exactly? I did it come from Boys in the Hood, or did y'all just make that up? Where did my name come from?
No, actually, your name did come from Boys in the Hood.
Okay, so my name did come from Boys in the Hood. Okay,
right. I saw the movie. Yeah, I saw the movie, and I was like, damn, that is a positive father. I'm like, my man has full responsibility for his kid. And when I saw that name, your mother didn't like it at first, and she was like, Mike, they're gonna call him lunch tray at school. They're gonna call him ashtray. And I was like,
thought that?
Yes, that's what she was saying.
I was like, worse.
And I specifically told her, you don't put a Y on it. I said, we're not putting a Y on it, putting an accent on it. And she was cool with that. Yeah. She said the only reason your last name is Williams because she thought we was going to get married. Like, that's the only reason I let him have your last name. I said, he is a Nelson. And I was like, well, what can I say now?
Should be all right. Boys in the Hood and Menace. Boys in the Hood and Menace.
Right. Boys in the Hood.
Okay. Well, I got Menace.
Well, hold on. Boys in the or Menace?
Or Menace. Yeah.
Menace.
Okay.
Yeah.
Menace.
Menace. Just Menace is outdated now. It didn't age well, but Menace, because man, I see seen a lot of that stuff. Not on the California level, but on the DC level, I've seen a lot of that, and it hits true. Menace, yeah.
More real. So, how did you meet, your first ex-wife, Dallas's mom, and what was that like? And then you having your second child, How was that experience like?
You know what? I met. It's funny because I met Amelia. I didn't. It was on a humble. Me and your mom had an episode. She had taken you and gone back to Georgia because during that time we was playing ping pong between Georgia and DC. Georgia and DC. Your mom had taken you back to Georgia for good. And I was in the house sad. I miss my son. I miss my son. And my best friend, my brother Donnell, he came over and he was like, get out the bed. Because his girl had left him that week too and went back to Mississippi.
Mm.
So both of us was in the dumps. He said, we going out tonight. And I had just got my income tax back. I had like $2,200. I say, all right, we went out. We went to this nightclub called the East Side. That's no more. That's not there anymore. Dallas mother, Amelia, she was sitting there, and we winked at each other a little bit, and I came over and we talked or whatever, and exchanged numbers, and we went from there. That was rough too,
Yeah.
and it was all my early relationships was rough, and I will say they was rough because your father was wild. He was wild. He was wild. He drank alcohol obsessively at the nightclubs and partied and did all the stuff a young guy should do. A little excessive, but all of it. Yeah, he was wild. So none of those relationships were going to work out at that time anyway. They just weren't. And I'll take 85% of it. 85. So, but having my second kid, that was something else. It was hard because my first kid wasn't here, so I had a lot of reservations about that. True to form, me and Dallas's mother had actually broken up when she called me and told me I'm pregnant. I was like, not again. Damn. They keep pulling me back. So, but yeah,
pull-out game kind of weak back then.
we ain't even the word. But so, but I was good. I was good, and it's just one of those things, man, where sometimes you can run or you can look that stuff in the face and you can say, you know what? I got 2 kids, I'm having another kid and, we planned on getting married. And we did it. And I probably shouldn't have gotten married then because I wasn't ready and it wasn't fair to her at all. It wasn't. And I've apologized to her too. So, right. But it wasn't fair back then. I was 24 at the time. And I'ma tell you, I was
24. Wow. I can't even imagine being married at 24. I came to China at 24.
Right. I was wild. So I mean, I was okay. I did it. I paid in full. I paid in full for a lot of stuff that I did back then, relationship wise. So, right. I'm good with myself now about that stuff.
And you also Trinity's mom, my sister's mom. You mentioned, you met her around the same time as my mom because y'all went to school together. That I didn't know. But how did you run into her again in the 2000s?
I was at the nightclub.
It's a common theme around here, the nightclub.
And she walked up to me and she said, Mike, you remember me? And I was like, Tracy, girl, I ain't seen you since we was in that computer school and we got to talking. And in actuality, me and her had always had a good relationship then, and when we was in school and even a little bit, but I mean, we clicked right away. we clicked right away. And she was funny and laughed and and seemed like she did all the stuff that I like to do. But never underestimate somebody else's dysfunction. Woo, 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 woo. And I'm gonna go Forrest Gump. That's all I'm gonna say about that. So
so so now you have your third child in Trinity, and what is that experience like? You already had Dallas and myself. Now you have a daughter. What is that like now with
ha-
having her?
having a daughter is having a daughter is different, but having her late like I did, bless you, at about 33, 34, having a daughter late is different because now I have patience, and now I have, bless you, better finances and I have a better understanding of parenting. And not to mention that she's a girl, so you're gonna be more protective and this, that, and the third. And so it was routine early on, and I have full custody of her now since she was 8, and so she's been with me. So the routine part of it turns more protective, or it's all on you. And what being a single parent at that time, because I'm married, but not to my daughter's mother. I do have a wife, but being a single parent at that time when me and Trinity lived by ourselves, and you wake up and you know that you're all she has. You see, you're all she has. And single moms who feel that way, I get it now. You see, I get it. When they hustling hard and they struggling, or you don't have relationships with people, or you this, that, and the third, you look at your kid and they only depend on you. You're all
Right.
that she has. So I get it. It's really been, for all the other parents that was like, you should have had the kid by yourself and you could have seen what it's like. It caught up with me. I got it. I see what it's like. You know, I see what it's like to have to get up every day and put a kid in the shower and get them out the door to school and make sure lunch and come home on routine and do this and do that. And I've seen it, and
Right.
it's tough. It is tough. It's not easy. But she's 17 now. But the thing is, while you in it seems like time don't be moving. But the older they get, time move fast. And now you ain't wiping noses no more. Now you ain't picking
Right.
out clothes no more. Now you ain't tying shoes no more. They doing it themselves. So but it's been a ride. All three of my kids, I will say, have totally different personalities. All three of y'all have totally different personalities. All three of y'all have things like me, and all three of y'all have things like your mom. And and we can see it. We can differentiate. When you acting like your father. When you looking like your father. Haha, Sheila,
That's why.
got you.
That's why she. That's why she don't like me. That's why she don't like me because I look like you. She don't like me.
Yeah,
That's why.
that's what she say. Mm.
Yeah. Well, I made that up. I said you don't like me because I look like him. That's why. She just
Right,
started laughing.
right, right. Yeah,
So you're married now. How did you meet your wife?
I was at the nightclub.
It all starts with the nightclub, ladies and gentlemen.
No, no. Me in the nightclub. I was at the nightclub, and she was there. This is a funny story. She was there, and this guy was actually trying to talk to her,
Mm-hmm.
But she was giving me the eye.
Right.
Yeah, she was with this girl, turned out to be her sister. So I told the girl, I said, look, come here for a minute. And she was like, for what? I don't want to talk to you. I said, can you come here for a minute, please? And she was all like, what do you want? I was like, come here. I say, can you give your friend my number? And she say, that's not my friend. That's my sister. I said, well, can you give your sister my number? Thank you. And then I walked out and I left. And then she called me. And we started talking from there. And her sister has been a pain in my ass for a long time. Because her sister actually thought that I liked her, and I didn't. I really didn't. I ain't want no parts of her sister. So, I mean, and then, it started from there. We progressed over the years, broke up a couple times, got back together, you know, the relationship game, but when somebody is for you, when
Right.
somebody's for you. So when they got your back and they've been there through your trials and your tribulations, and she been there, So,
Right.
but
So
that's
no more kids now, right?
hell no. Ain't no kids nowhere. Oh Lord.
No more kids
Shoot.
now.
I couldn't even fathom going into my 60s with a kid. Hell no. Look, I'm struggling with this 17-year-old. This child be 18 this year.
Golly.
Yeah, she about to graduate. She getting on
Years
all
old.
my. If I touched her arm right now, my hand would rot up and fall off. That's how spoiled she is. Rotten. Mm, mm.
So, how's your current relationship with Sister Hallelujah?
Me and Sheila, we get along. We can laugh about some things. We still have different opinions about some things, and we know how far not to engage each other.
Right.
So we don't have to engage each other on our kids because you're not a kid anymore. So we don't have to engage each other on that. We can have adult conversations about your lifestyle. But other than that, we don't have any direct, conversations about where me and her have to engage ideas because we ultimately have different ideas. We have the same ideal, but not ideas. And I think by us being from different backgrounds, that caused a lot of our friction early on because I can be a heathen and she started talking about religion. And the best way to throw a Christian off is to start talking that nonsense about Jesus. And that would just throw her off. And after that, she lose it. And then I feel like, I won the argument, you know. So, but that's all. And she would talk about my reality. Well, everybody in the world ain't from paradise, ain't from the ghetto, ain't and I be frustrated like paradise is the greatest ever. What are you talking about? But we don't have to. So we're fine now because we don't have to engage each other on those topics, those situations. We have a mutual understanding and respect. Our child is grown. He's doing his own thing in life. And we can come together and celebrate that without letting the past relationship that we had, without letting the trials and tribulations of our past hinder that. We didn't damage each other so bad that we can't, speak and try and be cordial and friends on an adult level,
Right.
like Sister Hallelujah is still silly, and I'll say something to her from a long time ago, like, "Oh, I bet you want a steak and cheese or a Snicker bar, don't you?" And she'll be like, "Mike, shut the hell up." And then that'll probably be the end of the conversation. Like we don't really take it that far past that. We laugh about it and get on. Because she has a whole life, and I have a whole life, and we brought life into this world, and we had one common goal, and sometimes two people with the same objective take different paths on getting there. And
Right.
if you and this other person don't, talk about it, which most young people don't, because you don't know how to talk about it. You only know your way. So
Right.
then you run into, the potholes and the traps that me and her being young kids ran into, So, but as we grew older, we realized, yeah, we ain't got time to be fussing and fighting.
Right.
We ain't got time for that. So, yeah, but
Right.
we good. Me and sister good.
So what did you guys wanted for, like, I asked my mom this, like, what did she want for me to do as an adult? And she talked about the basic go to college, work a job, 401k, that stuff. But like, what did you wanted me to do as an adult when I was a kid? What were your like dreams for me to do? Or you kind of just don't be a bum? What was your like dreams for me to do as an
Well,
adult?
I was gonna let you play it out. Whatever you wanted to do, because at one time you was a baseball fanatic, then you was a basketball fanatic, and you stuck more with basketball than baseball. So it was more sports related. Like, whatever you want to do, I'm behind you, as long as you ain't, out in the streets, knocking fools across the head, doing that nonsense. So whatever you wanted to do, that's it really didn't matter, as long as it was positive. If you want to go to work every day and be a regular Joe, I was fine with it. I mean, I knew when I took you to that daggone to that Kmart, try to buy you that bicycle, and you wanted a wrestling ring. I said, this boy crazy. They had a mongoose bike, it had mag rims on it. I said, you don't want this bike? He was like, I got a bike at home, but I want a wrestling ring, Dad. I said, okay, go on, get the wrestling ring then. Bike was $70. Wrestling ring was $25. Hey, thanks, kid. You
I
say
still
pops.
don't regret it either.
You
I
say
don't
pops
regret that
$50.
decision.
I know. And
Well worth it.
you stuffed that wrestling ring in your bag when you went back home too. You folded it up and stuffed it in that bag. Like, taking this wrestling ring with me. I ain't leaving this behind. So, yeah, but it's pretty much whatever you wanted to do, man. I
Right.
didn't matter.
Because when I was talking to my mom about this in the podcast, in her mind, because of that old school mentality, it was get a job, go to college, and work this regular job, 9 to 5, slaving for the man, and get married. She wanted all that, and she told me she realizes that hey, that wasn't my path, and she actually apologized to me for that as well, because like that's not my path.
Right. That's wild, because that is exactly what she wanted, especially to get married and have kids part. So she was
She
all for
still
that.
want that.
No.
She still want that.
And I
Funny.
said, look, when you said I was going to China to teach, I was like, you sure you want to go to China? But I say, you know what? That's what you want to do. That's what I tell people. I've lived my life. It's not up to me to decide what my kid should or shouldn't do. It's up to them. And that's
Right.
how I always felt. And your mother, she would ask me trick questions. Like, don't you
Trick
want him to
question.
do this? Don't you want him to do that? Then tell him that. I'd be like, no, this stuff is his decision, woman. I let him do it. Let him do what he wants. It's
Yeah.
like, just beat it. That's all you got. Just beat it. So,
Right.
I think you made
She do
I
want to
think you
make
made the
money.
right decision.
Dang.
You know,
So who's the favorite child? Who's the favorite child?
who's the favorite child? I won't say I had
Mhm.
a favorite. I have a favorite child, because all three of y'all are so different. Y'all are so different. You were definitely your father's child when it come to those physical activities. And Dallas, they say he act like me when it come to all that trying to be all smart all the goddamn time. That thing upstairs, good Lord. When it come to hard head, she is. Oh, I call her me all the time. I'll be like, Michael Williams, can you please stop, please? It's like your head is just so hard. She just be like, huh? What? Yeah, daddy. Yeah, daddy. I can't say I've learned something from each one of my kids. From you is follow your dreams, follow your dreams. And from Dallas is like he's such a chameleon, he's such a chameleon. Smart, real smart, a chameleon on a whole different level. He don't get that from me because I'm transparent. And I think what I learned from Trinity is I'm still learning from her. I'm still trying to understand how little girls operate because I told you she had this little boy bought her some food over here one day. Oh, daddy, my friend gonna bring me some food. I said, oh, okay. Little boy pull up in the car. She go outside, go behind my other car and get the food. I said, where your friend at? Oh, he dropped it off. I said, he? I said, oh, okay. I said, well, next time he drops some food off, he need to come up to this door. I say, because, or he ain't coming back. Hey, you doing too? I say, I don't care what you say. If somebody, a boy bringing you food over here, I need to see his face. I say, or he won't come back over here. I say, tell him I'm bring you nothing. As a matter of fact, he need to bring two. I'm hungry too. I want to eat. That's right. Yeah. I say, and what size shoe he wear too? Just so I know. Right. He ain't been back.
I don't want no daughter. I don't want no daughter. No.
Let me tell you something. I don't think you do. I think they are there for something else. Something. Not the teenage daughter. You want the little daughter. The
daddy's girl, right?
The birth
is daddy's girl.
The birth through about 11. That's who you want. Oh, they love you. They hug you. They kiss you. The 12 through right now, I could take 4 switches and tie them together and just break them across her ass. Just break these switches off. Just damn it.
I don't want no daughter. I asked my mom who the favorite. She made it clear I'm definitely not the favorite. I'm like probably at the bottom at this point. She made it clear I ain't the favorite.
Yes.
That's fine. As long as I'm above Brianna. Brianna's the last. Brianna's the very last.
Let me tell you, your mother got Southern blood in her. Mississippi blood. You don't get no souther than that. Yeah, and they stay home. Family stay family. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Family. Yeah. Mississippi don't go to China. You see? They don't go to China. They don't leave their mother and go to China. They stay home and stay close. And that's her Mississippi blood be boiling when you say, I'm about to take off and go around the world. She's like, no, you're not. You get ready to stay here.
Or when the dad books that flight to DC in May.
Right.
Book that.
Right. That flight,
to DC and not Georgia.
Right. Wake up out my sleep. She be knocking at my door. Is my son here? I ain't playing with your mother, boy. I ain't playing with Chilla. We ain't got no tickets, Chilla. Ain't no tickets.
We got it. So before we go, what advice would you have like for any young man out there that's just trying to figure out this thing called life?
Oh, boy. Well, first of all, the young guys now, the situation has changed for them. They got more than they know what to do with. But they so busy filming themselves doing nothing, they don't even get it. So my advice for the young guys right now: don't go back in chains. They gonna put y'all back in chains unless y'all get y'all ish together. But no, seriously, go to school. Go to school. Go to school. Go get educated and vote. Definitely vote. If your vote wasn't important, they wouldn't be trying so hard to stop y'all from doing it. Go vote. It might not change what you wanted to change, but every vote is a voice. And when they see that, they get scared as a people, the young people. Stop worrying about what you got on your back. Stop worrying about impressing social media. Go to school. That's what you gotta go to school. And stop doing that stupid stuff. So, but that's what I tell them, man. Vote, go to school. You know, I can't I can't tell people to love their mama and all that stuff. If you don't love your mama, shame on you. You know, regardless of what she did, you still should love your mama. You know, I'm not gonna say all that cookie cutter stuff, but what I am gonna say is they're gonna put y'all asses back in chains if y'all don't get it together. They already working on it. They trust and believe they working on it. They've been working on it. So yeah.
Right. And that's yeah. And last thing, Super Bowl predictions. You know, we got the San Francisco 49ers versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Who you got?
I got Kansas City. I got Kansas City. And I'll tell you because everybody took Baltimore. But everybody underestimate how good of a coach Andy Reid is. He outcoached Harbaugh, came up with a game plan for him. And Andy Reid is going to come up with a game plan for Brock Purdy, and that's going to be the ball game. They count Kansas City out, man, but Kansas City is still a good ass football team. You saw that. So, I got the Chiefs. I got the Chiefs. It's going to be 34-19 Kansas City.
I got the Chiefs as well. You know, the game against Baltimore, but they didn't even the Chiefs didn't even score in the second half, and they still beat them. Their defense still put
Yep.
in work. So I feel like you said they're gonna stop Purdy. Their defense is gonna shut them down, and you know Mahomes and Taylor Swift's boyfriend, as my mom calls him. Their offense is going to show out. Prosecco going to get some good yardage. I got this game 35-17 Chiefs.
Yep. Oh, one last thing. Tell your mom that Baltimore is not in the DMV, okay? Negative. Look, district. And people from DC, we don't even claim the DMV. We from DC, not Maryland, not Virginia. We don't claim and definitely not Baltimore. Baltimore got their own thing going. Baltimore, their own city. No disrespect to B-more. They got they as a person in Baltimore, are you from the DMV? You might not even make it out that joint. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Oh goodness, yeah, she's you know how she is.
yeah, we don't claim that. Negative.
uh, yeah, and her predictions was wrong. She was like, "Yeah, I'm going for the Ravens." You know, even though what's his name? Even though Lamar Jackson can't speak, you know, that was funny.
Look, I don't even want to talk about the boy because I like Lamar. I like to see him
I like
represent.
him.
But that boy talk like he got 2 pieces of corn and a half a cabbage in his mouth, all at the same time.
Where he from? He from Florida, right? Where's he
He,
from?
I think so. He's look. He sound like they on their way to get them. Like he on his way to the Underground Railroad, and they finna get him. Like I think Catcher Freeman is his
Catch
uncle.
Freeman.
I think Catcher Freeman is his uncle or something. Nah, now Lamar, he a good ball player, but you can't help how you talk, man. You know. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
I would have liked to see Lamar win because he represent the brothers that don't get represented in terms of, I'm gonna wear my hair like this. He ain't ignorant. He ain't stupid. He
yeah,
ain't doing that Allen Iverson stuff like back in the day. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
That's just
yeah.
his style. So, but
Right.
you know, I'd have liked to see him get some Super Bowl stuff. You know,
Yeah, he's a good dude. I do like him. He's a good
yeah.
dude, good representation for us, and great quarterback. I mean, hopefully he can get something in the future. But it was this big debate: will he be the one of the great quarterbacks that never wins a Super Bowl?
Look, as long as that damn Andy Reid and Mahomes out there, you gotta beat them. You have got to beat.
Yeah,
And last person to beat them was Tom Brady.
yeah. And Tom
That's
Brady's a
it.
goat, so
And right, that was the last person to beat them. And
yeah,
it's gonna be they're gonna have to. Uh, 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 oh boy, Mahomes gonna have to be out injured or something for somebody else to get
yeah.
in there because him and Andy Reid is a hell of a coach, and
Hmm.
Mahomes is a hell of a football player. And taking nothing away from Lamar, but you still
Yeah.
got some catching up to do
How you feel about Detroit and San Francisco game? They had the lead and then they just blew it at the second half.
because their coach is a meathead. You see what I'm saying? He hard headed. He's stubborn. He gonna do it his
Hmm.
way.
Yeah,
Look, you got to be smarter than that. Take the points. Take the
yeah,
points. You gotta take the points. You see, and he did this stuff twice. You see,
hmm,
you his his "I'ma do it my way" attitude cost him the game. He cost his team that game. Nobody else because I'm down 10. I still got some fight in me. I'm down 13. Little less fight. It's 24-7 versus or whatever the score was. You take a little bit more out of San Francisco, they start seeing that deficit and they start thinking they can't come back, you know. And he really messed that up for his team
yeah,
with those meathead decisions. But he got to
yeah,
live with that. It's one
yeah.
thing to cost yourself, but to cost your players, nah, I wouldn't have did it.
Right. Yeah, I like Dan Campbell. He does remind me a lot of. He reminds me a lot of those old school type of coaches. But yeah, I mean, I've seen him in the press conference. He did take full accountability for it, and he does got to live with it. I mean, I don't know. I think this was like their one shot. I'm happy for Detroit because they haven't won a playoff game since text messaging. But at the same time, I'm disappointed because there was just no reason y'all shouldn't have not won that game.
Because this is your only. You don't get another. You, it's not guaranteed you're gonna ever get back. Look, the last time they
Yeah,
was in that game, the Redskins beat their butt. That's the last NFC Championship game they was in. The Redskins
yeah,
beat them. You see, it's not
right.
guaranteed, and that was 1991. That was the last. That was the year before Super Bowl you was born.
Yeah,
So that was the year before you was born, and it's no guarantee you're gonna get back. So
yeah.
you
30 more
gotta take,
years.
yeah, you gotta take the points. You gotta take the points. So yeah,
Yeah,
he messed up, but it's all good.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, Dad, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for doing the podcast with me. Really appreciate it. I want to thank everybody for watching. Before we go, I got to plug in all of my social media and all my what's the ventures or whatever. But anyway, make sure you guys follow me on Instagram at underscore Uncle Money. Check out my book, Surviving China as an Expat. I live in China for those that know. And I wrote a book on China on tips on how to survive and navigate there. So check that out. Check out my podcast, Functions Podcast. I have a podcast with my friend and I where we just sit and talk about a bunch of BS. Check that out. And check out my other YouTube channel called Black Beyond Borders. It's a YouTube channel about my life in China as an expat, as a Black American man in China. Check it out. Link in the description. I have a song out called "Simp," where it's a song where I make fun of simps. some of the audience may be simps, but it's okay. I'm here to save everybody from the simps. So check that out. It's on all platforms. Links in the description. And I have another song coming out called "Love the Way." It's a rap and pop song. It'll be available on all platforms February 3rd. So check that out. And that's all I got. Anything else you want to say to everybody?
Shout out to the Redskins. We
and
might be
Corona and Heineken.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I ain't having no more parties for a while at the house, so them just gonna sit over there forever. But I ain't got. I'm proud of you, kid. Keep doing your thing, man. Your pops love you.
Thank you.
All,
Love you too.
all the way from Georgia, DC, all the way to China. Keep doing your thing. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Out. See you guys.